The Last Stand of Bismarck, May 27, 1941, 08:47 in the morning. North Atlantic Ocean, approximately 400 nautical miles west of Brest, occupied France. The sea is gray. The sky hangs low beneath thick clouds. Waves slam relentlessly against steel hulls as freezing Atlantic winds whip across the decks. Visibility stretches for miles, yet there is nowhere left to hide. Aboard the German battleship Bismarck, nearly 2,200 sailors brace themselves for the inevitable. On the horizon, enormous silhouettes slowly emerge from the mist. British battleships. The hunt is over. Within minutes, one of the greatest naval duels in history will begin. Every sailor aboard Bismarck understands what is about to happen. There will be no rescue, no reinforcements, no escape, only survival. This single morning will determine whether Nazi Germany's most powerful battleship becomes the terror of the Atlantic or its greatest naval tragedy. The Iron Giant, the pride of Germany's Kriegsmarine, was unlike any warship Europe had ever seen. Stretching over 250 meters long and displacing more than 50,000 tons fully loaded, Bismarck was not merely a battleship. It was a floating fortress. Her 8 massive 15-inch guns could launch shells weighing nearly 800 kilograms over 35 kilometers. Her armor reached more than 320 millimeters thick around vital areas. 4 steam turbines generated nearly 150,000 horsepower, allowing speeds exceeding 30 knots. She combined firepower, armor, and speed better than almost any battleship afloat. To Adolf Hitler, Bismarck represented Germany's return as a global naval power. To Britain, she represented an existential threat. The man in command commanding the operation was Admiral Günther Lütjens. At 52 years old, Lütjens was one of Germany's most experienced naval officers. Calm, disciplined, professional, unlike many Nazi commanders, he was known more for duty than political fanaticism. He had fought during the First World War and spent decades mastering naval warfare. His strength wasn't reckless aggression. It was careful planning. But now he faced a mission unlike anything before. He was ordered to break into the Atlantic, attack British convoys, and cripple Britain's lifeline. Success could starve Britain. Failure would hand the Royal Navy one of its greatest victories. Why this mission mattered. By 1941, Britain stood largely alone against Nazi Germany. Everything depended upon supplies crossing the Atlantic. Food, fuel, aircraft, ammunition. Without those convoys, Britain might collapse. Germany knew this. Rather than fighting every British battleship directly, they planned to destroy merchant shipping. One powerful battleship roaming freely across the Atlantic could force Britain to divert enormous naval resources. That battleship was Bismarck. If she reached open waters, hundreds of cargo ships could become easy targets. Britain could not allow that, no matter the cost. Operation Rainbung on 18 May 1941. Bismarck departed Gotenhofen alongside the heavy cruiser Prinz Eugen. The mission carried a simple name, Operation Rheinbung. The route would take them through the dangerous waters between Iceland and Greenland before entering the Atlantic. But almost immediately, things began going wrong. Swedish observers spotted the task force. Their reports reached British intelligence. Soon reconnaissance aircraft confirmed what London feared most. Bismarck was at sea. Within hours, Winston Churchill issued a clear order. Sink the Bismarck, no exceptions, no delays. Every available ship would join the hunt. First Contact the North Atlantic became a giant chessboard. British cruisers searched relentlessly through fog, storms, and icy seas. Finally, late on May 23rd, heavy cruiser Suffolk detected German radar signals. Soon, Norfolk joined the shadowing force. The British refused immediate battle. Instead, they silently tracked Bismarck through darkness, reporting every movement by radio. Lutyens knew he had been found. But he continued toward the Atlantic. Then came the next move. Britain dispatched its most famous battlecruiser, Hood, alongside the newly commissioned battleship Prince of Wales. The interception would occur the next morning. Hashtag the Battle of the Denmark Strait, May 24th, 1941, 05:52 a.m. The sea remained cold, but surprisingly calm. Visibility slowly improved. Both fleets spotted one another. Orders echoed across steel decks. Enemy in sight. Massive gun turrets slowly rotated. Hydraulic systems groaned beneath thousands of tons of armor. Rangefinders calculated distance. Fire control computers worked furiously. Then, at 05:52, the first British shells erupted from Hood. Columns of water exploded around Bismarck. Seconds later, the German battleship answered. 8 enormous guns fired together. The blast shook the entire ship. Orange fireballs burst from each turret. Smoke engulfed the deck. More than 6 tons of steel raced toward the British fleet. The duel had begun. Hashtag the death of a legend. For nearly 8 minutes, the world's greatest warships exchanged devastating salvos. Shells crashed around both fleets. Steel fragments flew through the air. Crewmen shouted corrections. Range, bearing, reload, fire again. Then, at exactly 0600, one German shell changed history. It struck Ms. Hood near her aft magazines. For one horrifying second, nothing happened. Then, an unimaginable explosion tore through the battlecruiser. A pillar of fire erupted hundreds of feet into the sky. The ship literally broke apart. Within 3 minutes, the pride of the Royal Navy disappeared beneath the Atlantic. Out of 1,418 men, only 3 survived. Shock swept across Britain. Hood had symbolized British naval supremacy for 2 decades. Now, she was gone, destroyed by Bismarck. The entire British Empire demanded revenge. Hashtag a costly victory, but Bismarck had not escaped unharmed. Several heavy shells from Prince of Wales slammed into her hull. One ruptured fuel tanks, another damaged machinery. Oil leaked steadily into the Atlantic. Her maximum operational range dropped dramatically. Instead of continuing commerce raiding, Lutyens now aimed for occupied France. The hunter had become the hunted. Hashtag the greatest naval hunt. Churchill unleashed nearly everything available. Battleships, aircraft carriers, cruisers, destroyers, reconnaissance aircraft. More than 40 warships joined the pursuit. The Atlantic became a giant trap. Yet Bismarck disappeared. For nearly 30 hours, the British lost contact completely. Tension spread throughout naval headquarters. Had she escaped? Could she already be attacking convoys? No one knew. Then, on May 26th, a Catalina flying boat spotted her once again. She was heading directly toward France. Time was running out. Hashtag the torpedo that changed everything. Only one force remained close enough. Aircraft carrier Miss Ark Royal. Her aging ferry Swordfish torpedo bombers prepared for launch. By modern standards, they looked obsolete. Open cockpits, fabric-covered wings, slow speed, yet they carried one deadly weapon. The torpedo. Flying through terrible weather, the pilots attacked. Anti-aircraft guns filled the sky. Tracer rounds streaked through rain and mist. Several torpedoes missed. Then, one struck near Bismarck's stern. The explosion seemed minor, but its consequences proved catastrophic. The blast jammed both rudders, locked at roughly 12 degrees. No matter how engineers struggled, the ship could no longer steer properly. Bismarck began sailing endless circles. Her fate was sealed. Throughout the night, British destroyers harassed the crippled battleship. Star shells illuminated the darkness. Torpedoes forced constant evasive action. German sailors remained at battle stations for hours without rest. Exhaustion spread throughout the crew. Morning approached. And with it, the final battle. #The Last Stand, May 27th. 08:47 a.m. British battleship Ms. Rodney opened fire. Moments later, Ms. King George V joined in. Gigantic shells screamed overhead. The first impacts smashed into Bismarck's superstructure. Steel twisted. Radar antennas collapsed. Fire control positions vanished in explosions. German guns answered. Despite terrible damage, the crew continued loading shells. Turrets traversed manually after hydraulic failures. Smoke filled every compartment. Communications broke down. One by one, main gun turrets fell silent. Anton, Bruno, Caesar, Dora, Still, the crew fought on. Shell after shell pounded the ship. Hundreds of impacts transformed Bismarck into burning wreckage, yet she refused to sink. British officers later admitted amazement. No battleship had absorbed punishment like this. Finally, cruisers and destroyers closed in. Torpedoes struck repeatedly. Inside the ship, flooding became uncontrollable. Captain Ernst Lindemann and Admiral Ilchens remained aboard. Neither attempted escape. Around 10:35 a.m., orders spread through surviving compartments. Scuttle the ship, open the sea valves, destroy classified documents, prevent capture. Minutes later, the great battleship slowly rolled to port. The stern disappeared first. Then, the bow lifted high above the Atlantic. At approximately 10:40 a.m., Bismarck vanished beneath the waves. The aftermath of approximately 2,200 men aboard, only 114 survived. More than 2,000 sailors died in the freezing Atlantic. British rescue efforts ended abruptly after reports of nearby German submarines. Hundreds were left behind. Many perished in the icy water. It remains one of the most tragic moments in naval history. #Why Bismarck's fall changed the war. The destruction of Bismarck removed Germany's greatest surface threat. From that point onward, Hitler increasingly lost confidence in large battleships. The Kriegsmarine shifted its focus toward submarine warfare. The Battle of the Atlantic continued for years. But never again would a German battleship inspire the same level of fear across Britain's shipping lanes. The Royal Navy had proven that determination, intelligence, aircraft, and coordinated fleets could defeat even the most powerful battleship ever built. It marked the beginning of the end for the age of the battleship. Aircraft and later submarines would dominate the future. #Epilogue Admiral Gunther Lulchens died with his crew aboard Bismarck. Captain Ernst Lindemann also chose to remain on the bridge until the end. Neither man surrendered. Their ship rests today nearly 4,800 meters beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Discovered in 1989 by explorer Robert Ballard, the wreck still stands remarkably intact on the ocean floor. A silent reminder of one of history's greatest naval dramas. Bismarck sailed for only 9 days. She fought just one major battle. Yet her final stand became legend. Not because she won, but because she demonstrated the terrifying power and ultimate vulnerability of the battleship in modern warfare. Even today, more than 80 years later, the name Bismarck still echoes across naval history as a symbol of engineering brilliance, extraordinary courage, and the immense human cost of war. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments about which historic battle we should cover next.